Good morning and welcome to Business Buzz. Coming up, the Nigerian exchange declines as the all-share index slips and market capitalization turns negative. Nigeria's foreign reserves climb above $52.5 billion as the gap between official and parallel exchange rates narrows to under 2%. Global oil prices tumble below $80 a barrel as traders bet on a breakthrough between Washington and Tehran. Dangote Refinery targets a $5 billion share sale, potentially the biggest stock market listing in African history. And on Wall Street, SpaceX faces investors for the first time since its record listing, as soaring artificial intelligence costs send the shares lower. I am Louisa Asidi. Stay with us. Welcome back. For 3 days now, Asaba had been the meeting point for the people shaping Delta State's economic future. Commissioners, business owners, investors all gathered under one roof for the Delta State Economic and Investment Summit. As the summit ended yesterday, one question sits at the center of every conversation. What happens when the handshakes are over? And now we took our cameras down round the venue to find out what's happening. We asked commissioners what this summit means for their sectors, and we also asked business owners and managing directors whether the promises match what they see on the ground. Different chairs, different priorities. Here's what they told us.
Of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dott TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them.
We impose extra burden on the masses. I feel your pain.
Only humility will lead us to unity, and unity will lead us to peace.
Go to the market and sell.
This is the second edition, and it was still in the pilot stage, and it's a learning stage. A lot of
valuable and important topics was discussed by the panels. And I think everybody that are here that really wants to learn will pick one or two and go home with the business ideas, with opportunities here. If we harness them, if we collaborate, organizations collaborate together, it's going to move Delta State forward. So there's a lot to pick home from this summit.
Delta State is one of the very secured states, one of the safest states in Nigeria today. No kidnapping, no harassment. The reason is that the Delta State governor have been able to localize security. Now the traditional rulers, the vigilantes, the youth, the market women are involved in security. So anything that happens in your domain, you must be ready to give account of it. 2, Delta State government enacts law to discourage youth meeting developers to say you must pay money before you lay foundation. 3, the state government and some of us have gone to the community and educate them to say, look, ask investors to bring 10 million, ask investors to bring 200 million. It's not generational. They will give you and the money will get finished. And when the money get finished, why don't you allow industry to come in? When industry comes in, it will stay 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It will create employment for your children. And some of this industry has the capacity to employ as much as 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Like the marine blue economy mentioned. Seaport has the capacity to employ 5,000 people, even more. So if the investor is allowed to develop such area, then their 5,000 or 3,000 of their people are sure of employment for the next 10, 20, 30 years, even the retirement benefit. So the state government not only done a lot, state government have made the community to be partners of this. So the community are ready, they are eagerly looking forward for the investors to come. And I think after this summit, we'll begin to see a lot. It's time now to use a lot of money we are getting from oil to develop generational inventions, generational sectors, so that we don't not spend the oil money just the way it comes. Again, the governor says he wants to see that allocation constitute the second, even the third source of income for the state. So it's looking at individual industry, bringing money and plenty of money.
Sheriff Oboroweri, I think he's doing very well. I'm not in the habit of commending governors, especially in this country. But this man, I like what he's doing. His hands is in business, especially for SMEs. So he's trying to see that if it comes to loans, one-digit loans, and visibility of your business, it brings it out, like what he's doing now, bringing these big shots to Asaba. It's a big thing, and we love it. I think he's doing well. But the main thing now in Asaba that is disturbing businesses is one, electricity, energy. And another thing too is bias. We need bias. I think that is why he is bringing this thing to making us more visible to the world, because we don't have bias now. For example, me now, I have this table. You can see my table, well, cashew nuts, oatmeal flour, and the things I do. People that are coming are people who want what they will go and cook at home and eat. But that's not actually why that's not only why I am here. I'm here for people to strike deals with me and say, we want this thing, can you ship to us? You produce it, we want to buy it, so and so. I live in USA, I live in UK, and so on and so forth. So I think if it can help us to make that one possible, we'll like it. Because what is in vogue now is the green economy, agro products, and I think Delta State is in the main hub when it comes to that.
The problem that we have in Delta is transmission and distribution. which was highlighted in the panel section today. So it's left for the investors to take advantage of this gap, which will also be profitable to them and also benefit the people of Delta State. Delta State is open and we are ready to collaborate with prospective investors in this area. We promise that we are going to electrify the Delta State economy so that we can, electricity stimulates the economy and brings about growth. And that is what you will see very soon. Before the end of this year to next year, there will be improvements on power in the whole of Delta State.
It has showcased to the world that Delta State is ready for business and Delta State is ready to secure your returns on investment. And I think we can all attest to the fact that the summit itself has been a resounding success. The panel that just finished now was on the area of the maritime sector, and of course, with the data and the focus on the maritime sector that we spoke about now, I'm very, very certain that we'll soon attract a lot of potential investors.
This summit have unlocked a lot of potentials within Delta State. In fact, I'm sure most of us that came in, we have seen that beyond what we imagined and what we thought that is available, the state has a lot. Delta State is positioned to be one of the leading states in Nigeria by the economic values, by the things that surrounds Delta. So by this summit, government has succeeded in unlocking the potential of the state to the investors. And I'm looking forward to seeing the transformations. I'm sure by the time we'll be coming back by next year, a lot would have changed. A lot would have been on ground. So we want to commend the government. We want to appreciate them for taking these steps. And we wish that other state copies the state government too. They should copy data. Data is on the right track.
Those were the voices from the scene. But to really understand what the summit means for Delta's future, we want to sit down with someone who was part of the conversation itself. Victor Owogaga is the founder and chief executive of NERO and one of the panelists at this year's Delta State Economic and Investment Summit. He is speaking to both of the biggest questions on everyone's mind: a Deltan economy that looks beyond oil and gas, and what it really takes to win investor confidence in this state. He joins us now to break it down. So you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so lovely to have you here today, and I'm so happy that we could bring you to the studio this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, so from your perspective, what is the real significance of this economic summit in the future of Delta State's economy?
Okay. I think one thing that key takeaway from the summit is that oil has created wealth for Delta State, but diversification will secure its future.
Okay, why do you say so?
Yes, because over the years, we've had our revenue sources has been from the oil sector. But looking at the opportunities and advantages we have, the minerals, resources, our youth population, our coastline, our GDP, I think those are opportunities that when we diversify, we're able to secure the future of Delta State and reduce our dependency on oil.
Okay. Now, when people say Delta beyond oil and gas, what should that actually mean when you look at practical terms?
Practical terms is that for opportunities may attract investment announcement, but policy consistency, security, and reliable execution partners will make investors actually deploy capital for this diversification into areas like technology, renewable areas that power SMEs, small businesses, that will enable the sector that actually drives the economy become productive and make more family earns more, increase their standard of living, and create more opportunities and jobs for our young people.
Okay. which non-oil sectors do you believe have the strongest potential to drive Delta beyond its next phase of growth?
Olumelu rightly put it on the first day of the summit. He said, we can talk development all day, but without power, we'll go nowhere. And renewable is the key areas that will be able to power the sector that drives the economy. And the sector that drives is the small scale businesses. They are over, I think they generate over 75% of the revenue and the jobs in this economy. And with renewable power for laundry, a laundry company can actually run efficiently all day, reducing costs and delivering its services efficiently. The cold room can actually preserve more food for our farmers and reduce waste and create food security for our people, because we need food, good food, to actually perform at our best. Renewable sector, power, earth sectors. So it is the foundation of the economy. With power, we will actually get the diversification we're actually speaking about. But without power, I think it will just be another announcement without implementations.
Okay, so you were saying that once we're able to enhance our power sector, Delta State will be able to grow onto the next phase of growth, right?
Yeah, we'll be able to compete at the national level with others like state like Lagos.
Okay, so how can agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, and the blue economy become the real engines of growth in Delta?
Okay. Like I said earlier, without food, you can't have productivity.
Okay.
Power is a foundation, but you need people that are eating very well, good food with nutrients to perform better. So agriculture will provide food and reduce cost of the food. You can see the inflation of food. It's actually making it difficult for people to eat maybe 3 times a day. And you don't want a young population, a working population that wants to be competitive has to be well fed. So you want a situation where agriculture is reduced, and agriculture can't be reduced on its own. The product, there has to be a value chain and connectivity where logistics is reduced, and logistics can be reduced when there is a low cost, and the low cost is usually coming from power. Power can actually reduce costs at all levels. So when the cost is low, logistics drives down, and you see that agriculture input tends to reduce, and processors of this agricultural products tends towards reduce their cost. And with the food that is available at the right cost, you now see the economy producing at its best potential, and that will actually lead to transformation of our economy and diversification.
Yeah, so when all the sectors are being stabilized, then Delta State will have a real potential at having an economic growth,
yeah,
right?
we can utilize the potentials we already have, because we have a lot of them now.
Okay, so what role do you think private sectors play in turning Delta's diversification plans into bankable projects?
Okay, for me, I always see private sector and government always building together. They don't have to build differently, because when the government comes with the right policies, you see the confidence for partnership on the private sector tends to increase. And when there's increased partnership, you see capital gets deployed. And when capital gets deployed, with disciplined execution, like what Taiwo, our Minister of Finance, said, there has to be disciplined execution, because resources cannot be enough. The people cannot be enough. There has to be partners that can deploy with discipline. At that level, we can actually attain the diversification.
We want.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the side of an investor, what do you think gives investors confidence to commit capital in a state like Delta?
For me, I think confidence also comes from consistent policy implementation, and like I rightly said, capable execution partners, because you see investors, they always want to, there's a capital, somebody said that capital is courageous, but it's not careless.
Okay.
Yeah, capital. So investors always want to look at, can I get my capital? Is my capital, can it be protected? Or would it become, carelessly implemented? So that's the area that investors actually look at. And that's where the governor has said is pledging and, putting funds of $100 million to de-risk some of these areas. And that's a very, very wonderful thing, because you look at, it's an insurance. It means, oh, you can come and do business, and where there's some gray areas that will make you, your business suffer, your capital have challenges. Yes, these funds cannot come in and, give you a kind of a buffer where you don't have to lose your funds. So that, I think that 100 million pledge is a big confidence for investors to come and deploy their capital here.
So just like what is happening, once that pledge is put in place, investors will have the confidence to come to put in their money long-term in Delta State.
Yeah.
Okay, now how important are policy consistency, infrastructure, security, and the ease of doing business in building investors' confidence?
These are areas where the government has to bring in technocrats. I was so happy to see the caliber of people that graced the event. When I was invited, I saw the likes of dear Mama Africa. I prefer calling her like that, because she has actually, set a standard and motivated us, create a pathway for us to look forward to. There's the likes of Taiwo Oyedele, I respect him a lot. And, Tony Lumelu, when you see him, you see the money coming. So you see the caliber of these people, and Austin Howard, the chairman of Dr. Austin Howard, the chairman of the event, the summit. So you see the likes of, these are people that have built things, you understand? So with people like that, there is a prospect for the proper implementation of these policies that the governor is actually, looking at. Because you can't put this set of people to a talk show. They have their time where, invested and, always needed at every point of time where. So having these people here is a big confidence and a reassurance that the government is committed to this project of Delta diversification beyond oil.
Okay, now you said something about the $100 million fund that is being used to de-risk investment. Now, how significant is that kind of move in practical terms?
Yeah, it's so much. Like I said, it's an insurance. So if you had a insurance arrangement with businesses, you'll see that most investors, foreign investors, when they deploy capital, they get to a point. They want to see that the board members, the key people in that company, has life insurance. There is a reason for that, because it's a global standard. So when you bring global standard to your state, it attracts global investors. Okay. So for me, that's a practical pathway to diversification.
So that means the practical pathway has already been put in place.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond funding, what other signals do investors look for before they take a state like Delta State seriously?
Yeah, security, which the governor has done very well. You can see the roads that is constructing to link the urban to the rural areas, and you want access to your raw materials, and the government is already making those pathways, and I think that's what investors want. If you have security and you have a network of good roads that connect you to market, connect you to your raw material, then as a business person, you are good to go.
Okay, so looking at the state government, how can the state government make sure that this summit, the promises from the summit, does not just end at a level of speeches and handshakes?
Yeah, I think the state government has actually, if you listen there, you notice that Konjuela also made mention of that there has to be areas where there has to be focus. So we don't, sometimes implementation has some challenges that is beyond words. The capital may be there, but the implementation may be fractured. and that means it may lead to failure in the whole arrangement. But the fact that with her deep knowledge of the sector of economy and management and trade, she was able to say, okay, we need to focus on 3 key areas. We don't have to spread the funds so it don't becomes too lean.
Okay.
When it becomes too lean, then it now lacks impact. What we want is impact. That's why she referred, okay, we should check some ports in Lagos. They are a free zone there. We should check one in other African countries, and I think she mentioned others. So those are areas where has to be looked into and put in place for proper implementation.
Okay, so as the founder and CEO of Nero, how does your own business experience shape your view of opportunity in Delta State?
Yeah, my business experience, if you're doing well in a particular state, it means one thing, that the state is good and ready for business.
Okay.
So for over the years, we've served over 2,000 customers, homes and businesses. We've improved productivity for them. We'll make them living well. We've also, make people housing, affordable, because access to housing and financing for housing is a major challenge as well. So, having those things and running them in a state that it means the state is working and is ready for business. So for me and the experience I have in Delta State is good to go. For those I know that in business, they are also bubbling, and a lot of them are here. And they were here, they were so happy to see this moment, because this is the first of its kind, I think. And we are looking forward to a lot of it to increase and preserve the confidence of existing investors and also attract global ones.
Okay, that's actually really wonderful. Now, what should entrepreneurs and investors be watching closely now if they want to benefit from Delta's Beyond Oil agenda?
Okay, they should be watching at, the governor's consistent implementation of its policies. They should be looking at the key areas like renewable powers and, areas for collaborations. Because collaboration is a key area that actually, can actually take your business from 100 to like 1 million.
Okay.
So looking at those angles I think is very key for anybody that is looking at investing in Delta State.
Okay, if you had to give one final recommendation to Delta State on both diversification and investor confidence, what would that be?
I think I would say you start practical. You have to be practical about your goal or whatever you want to invest, and get your people, because without a good leadership team, no matter the capital, you go nowhere. Capital can always can increase your execution speed, but good people will make it have impact. So I think I'll recommend people looking for Deltas that have specialized in their field, that they have the capacity to do what they know best.
Okay, thank you. It's so lovely having you here today. And I think I've learned a lot from you, looking at the economic side and the investor side. And I do hope for another economic summit also.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. And I believe our governor will definitely be consistent on it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
so
so much.
We'll go on the break now. When we come back, more Business Buzz.
By Didwe.
Welcome back. Let's look at the market where the Nigerian exchange edged lower on Wednesday. The all-share index shed 875 points to close at 243,927. This is a decline of just over 1/3 of 1%, with market capitalization falling by 564 billion naira to close at 157.45 trillion naira. Link Assurance led the gainers up nearly 10% to 1 naira 77 kobo, followed by Ava Capital and FTG Insurance. On the losing side, Honeywell Flour Mills placed the decliners down nearly 10% to 16 naira 30 kobo. Now to the Nigerian currency, where the central bank says its reform program is delivering results, with the spread between official and bureau de change rates now below 2%. External reserves have risen above $52.5 billion, described as the highest level in 17 years, while the naira closed at 1,362 to the dollar on Tuesday. A narrower spread and stronger buffers give the Apex Bank more room to defend the currency and send a signal of stability to foreign investors. Meanwhile, Governor Olayemi Cardoso is holding a tight policy line with the benchmark rate unchanged at 26.5%. Now to the global oil market. Brent crude fell more than 5% on Tuesday to around $79 a barrel, a 3-week low. Traders are betting the United States and Iran are close to an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz after optimistic remarks are from senior American officials, though Tehran insists talks are running only through Omani mediators. For Nigeria, softer prices would squeeze export earnings and government revenue at a delicate moment for the budget. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs sees Brent crude holding between $80 and $90 until a formal deal is signed or tensions flaring again. Now to corporate news and a landmark deal in the making. Dangote Petroleum Refinery is targeting about $5 billion from an initial public offering expected to conclude in October. A new report on the listing on the Nigerian exchange says the refinery could become Africa's biggest ever, following a private placement last month that valued the refinery at about $40 billion. Proceeds would fund an expansion of capacity to 1.4 million barrels per day, with exchanges across South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, Ghana, and Rwanda seeking a slice of the deal. A prospectus is expected in September, and it's subject to approval by the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's time now for a break. When we return, news from the central bank. Welcome back. Now moving on to the central bank. Its newly published accounts show total assets rose above 138 trillion naira in 2025, up 18% on the year. Crucially, claims on the federal government declined as the bank unwinds the controversial ways and means of the overdrafts of previous years. Analysts say the shift signals a return to orthodox central banking and stronger policy credibility after years of heavy fiscal support. The bank forecasts economic growth of nearly 4.5% this year. Now to Abuja, where the National Economic Council has approved the refinancing of the $3.3 billion Project Gazelle facility through a new, larger arrangement worth $4.5 billion. Finance Minister Taiwo Oyedele says the deal cost the volume of crude pledged by 12.5%, while unlocking around $3 billion in fresh liquidity. The government says the funds will support external reserves and infrastructure priorities, thereby easing pressure on public finances. Now to a warning for Nigeria's oil trade. Cheaper crude from Brazil and Guyana is eroding Nigeria's grip on the European market, with Brazilian barrels trading at a discount of around $9 by late July. Analysts caution that some Nigerian grades risk shifting from dependable base load supplies to occasional opportunist purchases. However, there is a brighter news from Asia as India has reportedly bought 2 million barrels of Nigeria's Utapete and Okwebume crude from September delivery, underlining demand for newer grades. The pressure strengthens the case for refining more barrels at home rather than competing on price abroad. It's time now for another break. When we return, a look at the gas sector. Welcome back. Now to household energy costs, where there is some relief. The average retail price of cooking gas has fallen by about 39% in 2 months to around 1,400 naira per kilogram in major cities. The decline follows a fresh round of import permits approved by the mainstream regulator, with imported volume surging to fill a widening domestic supply gap. Petroleum marketers are also signaling lower pump prices after depot price cuts took effect this week. For consumers struggling with high living costs, this may be a welcome ease, but at the same time, a fragile relief. Now to digital assets, where the federal government has issued new guidelines on the taxation of cryptocurrencies and virtual assets, including penalties for non-compliance. Reports suggest peer-to-peer traders will now be required to register with a tax identification number, a move drawing traders out of the informal market. Supporters say the rules bring clarity and revenue. However, critics warn they could dampen innovation and investment in one of Africa's most active crypto markets. Some great news from investors in the Nigerian stock market. 8 listed companies have set dividend qualification dates for August, spanning telecoms, energy insurance, and hospitality. Among them, MTN Nigeria has proposed an interim dividend of 26 naira per share, while Seplat Energy has declared both an interim and a special dividend. For income-focused investors, the qualification dates are the cutoff. Hold the shares by then or miss the payout. We'll go on one more break. Still ahead, news from the World Bank. Welcome back. There's a striking finding from the World Bank as artificial intelligence adoption among former Nigerian businesses have jumped from under 5% in 2022 to about 40%, matching adoption rates in the United States. The bank cautions, however, that matching adoption does not mean matching depth or sophistication of use. The momentum comes as the technology agency, NITDA, signs a sovereign cloud framework aimed at attracting investment in artificial intelligence and data centers. The message for policymakers is clear. Adoption is racing ahead. The challenge now is building local capacity to match it. Now onto the international markets, beginning on Wall Street, and a tough start for the year's biggest new listing. SpaceX has delivered its first earnings report as a public company, and the shares fell around 8% in extended trading. Revenue nearly doubled to $7.8 billion, comfortably beating expectations, while quarterly losses narrowed to around $540 million. The concern is spending. Capital expenditure surged to more than $18 billion in the quarter, driven by the company's push into artificial intelligence. The stock has lost more than half its value from its post-listing peak, though major banks including Morgan Stanley, Deutsche Bank, and Goldman Sachs are maintaining buy ratings, a cautionary tale from investors watching Africa's own mega listings take shape. Staying with global markets, some of Asia's largest multi-strategy hedge funds have suffered their biggest drawdowns of the year after a brutal sell-off in artificial intelligence stocks across Japan, South Korea, and China. Goldman Sachs estimates Asia's stock-picking hedge funds fell more than 15% in July, the steepest monthly drop on record, while diversified platform funds such as Hong Kong Polymer Capital and Singapore's Diamond Asia lost between 6 and 7%. The reversal wiped out much of the gains from crowded bets on chipmakers that had returned over 100% for some funds in the first half. It It is a reminder that the artificial intelligence trade, for all its promise, cuts both ways. And finally, to the semiconductor industry, where there is a significant hedge against geopolitics. There's been reports that Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix are testing Chinese chip-making equipment for possible use at their factories in China as insurance against tighter American export controls. The South Korean giants began evaluating etching tools from China-based AMEC about 2 years ago, though no decision has been made on wider deployments. Analysts say the move exposes a paradox. American restrictions designed to contain Beijing's chip ambitions are instead opening doors for Chinese suppliers whose tools can cost 20 to 30% less than Western equivalents. For emerging markets building digital infrastructure, the fragmenting of the global chip supply chain is a story worth watching. This is all for Business Buzz today. I am Louisa Asidi. Thank you for watching.